Another area. Oh, did you want to say something about that, Michael?
No, I think George said it all. Especially his awkward change over to sex.
You just wanted to say that word. That is what it was. So another area, obviously, that we know our state laws make it very challenging for the gentleman here is what the sanctuary policies are. And I want to talk about that because, once again, the corridor of I-25, going out I-70, we're right in the thick of it. Darren and George, I want to talk to you guys about this first, and then Michael, I'm going to bring you in on this. In January, you both announced a lawsuit. You were suing Jared Polis and Phil Weiser. I just like saying that. You were suing Jared Polis and Phil Weiser over a policy that had to do with immigration and visas. Can you kind of talk about what the challenge is? It's unconstitutional, first of all, but it's about a 2021 law called HB 1060.
Does anybody know what a U visa is? A U visa? Real simple. As some of you may know, we have a rather large illegal immigration population. And they get preyed upon by people that either focus on them or maybe they victimize each other. It doesn't matter. None of the victims want to come forward and talk to law enforcement out of fear that they're going to be deported. And so about 24 years ago, Congress got together and said, let's create a vehicle to temporarily allow these people to stay in the country for purposes of going after the bad guys. And they called it a U, the letter U, U visa. And there's only 10,000 of them every year. And they're a very valuable tool for Darren, me, Michael, chiefs of police. And what happens is someone comes forward and says, I am a witness to a crime. I am a victim of a crime, and I'm willing to cooperate with us to get the bad guys. And we can sign off on a federal form that has words like under penalty of perjury, and I certify, and then it goes to ICE, and ICE decides whether or not to keep them. And I got to tell you, Mike, and I've signed a bunch of these, I know Darren has too, they tend to do it. Like, I haven't had them say no in a case. But this whole thing is filled with discretion of the law enforcement executives. Well, enter Julie Gonzalez, who describes herself as Senadora Julie Gonzalez. And in 2021, she led an effort that got signed by Governor Polis to take away all that discretion and mandate that Darren and Michael, and me, and chiefs of police have to, must to, got to sign off on these forms. And the only two factors we can consider are, were they the victim of a crime? And are they willing to cooperate? And they define cooperation as, unless you have documented evidence they're not cooperating, you have to presume they're cooperating. The problem that creates for me is that we had someone that applied recently that was like, I was a victim of domestic violence from 2022, and I'm willing to cooperate. Well, there's something called a statute of limitations. I can't do anything with that. I can't go after the bad guy in that particular case. And this was a guy claiming his wife had beat up on him. I can't do anything with that. I know you want to cooperate, but you waited so long, you're of no value to me. So I don't sign it. There's another one. Girl who's the daughter of a domestic violence victim from a case where mom actually cooperated and the system got a conviction for a misdemeanor 17 years ago. And now has applied for an extension of a U visa. Under Julie's law, both of those I'd have to sign. And I said, hell no, I'm not going to do that. One, I don't believe it. Two, it doesn't fulfill the intention of the U visa. And three, it takes away the potential for U visas for legit victims who come forward timely and will cooperate, because we only have 10,000. And I'm also a little pissed off that the state thinks they can tell me when to sign under oath a federal document. So I had this idea, talked to Darren about it. He foolishly agreed to sign on to the lawsuit. I don't think he knows what he's doing, but it's okay. Both of our names are on it. But so we had to sue the governor and the attorney general who enforces this thing. And I feel good about our chances on this particular case. This will not be the last lawsuit regarding state laws and our interaction with immigration. This is the first, and we'll see how this one goes.
Well, one of the frustrating things for me is when we do things like this, we get told, well, you guys are just racist. couldn't be further from the truth. And so it's just very frustrating that we have people, they don't care about facts. They care about whatever their belief is.
Well, thank you guys for doing that. And Michael, I want to turn this to you because then there's other, obviously, laws that have made us a sanctuary state. There was a 2019 law blocking local law enforcement from arresting or detaining an immigrant solely based on their status. There was a 2023 law that prohibits state and local law enforcement from coordinating with federal law enforcement. El Paso County and Douglas County joined together in a lawsuit against that in 2024. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then I want to turn it back to you as well.
Yeah, so those are all absolutely true. These laws that prevent Darren's folks from actually cooperating with ICE or federal officials on anything that has to do with immigration. And on top of that, we've had our current Attorney General actually filing lawsuits against uniformed law enforcement for being involved in a signal chat that by chance has a federal agent in it and somebody gets deported. But there's also another bill that you didn't mention, Deb, that I think is really insidious and nobody knows about it for the most part, and that is a misdemeanor rewrite. So the feds typically look at if somebody's got a jail sentence that's longer than a year, that can be a deportable offense. And yet just a few years ago, every misdemeanor was restricted to 364-day sentences, specifically to avoid immigration issues in criminal convictions. So all of the things that you mentioned are absolutely on point. That's another big issue that really gets to the idea that we are a sanctuary state.
So Darren, for you, I remember we took a trip down to the border and we were talking to people in El Paso right against the wall, and it was George was with me. I tried to keep him out of trouble. All three of us were there. But what was interesting is we would say to people in El Paso, we would say, oh, you're the police officer. Also, it was the firefighters working together. And what would you say if you were not allowed to work with either Border Patrol or ICE? And they looked at this like it's the stupidest idea on the planet. They said, we do it anyway. I mean, they understand what the threat is. Can you talk about what that is like to navigate when you are prohibited by law in Colorado from interfacing with federal law enforcement?
So I do, and I can't go too much into this because there'll be another bill. I do everything that I can under Colorado law to work with ICE. Prior to the latest law being passed, I actually used to post on our public website the demographics of my inmate population, as well as who had ICE holds in the country of origin. Can't do that anymore under state law. So I also will utilize, you guys may have seen last year, we allowed our SWAT team to assist our federal partners in 2 different cases regarding drug investigations, which ICE was also involved. I stood by that. I'll stand by that, and I'll do that again, provided the nexus of the investigation is drugs, narcotics, and not immigration. The fact of the matter is if one of my staff picks up the phone and calls ICE and says, we have somebody that you probably want to talk to, we are charged $50,000 per incident per employee. So if my deputies cooperate with ICE, the Attorney General's office can file, and we could be facing a $50,000 lawsuit. You guys, the taxpayers, are the ones who are going to be stuck with that bill. And so we have to be very careful on how we do our jobs. And so it's incumbent upon ICE, if we have somebody in our custody that they want. Now, we can legally transfer custody of the individuals, but we can't help facilitate that. And so what essentially it has done is if ICE doesn't come to get them, they're right back out on the street. There's nothing that I can do about that. And so my hands are tied in a lot of ways. And it seems like every year they come up with a different bill to try and further restrict our ability to communicate with us.
And one of the things I want to share, because this is all like tough news about Colorado, but we're the ones that can tell our neighbors. There's an interesting Signal poll that just came out, and despite what the media shows, the vast majority of Americans, independent, Republican, center-left, the vast majority is like 65 to 75% support ICE. support deportation, support the actions of our law enforcement. So don't buy what you see. If there's that neighbor you think you can't talk to about this, chances are they agree with you. And by the way, in Minneapolis, where this is obviously taking center stage, the minute that the local police department and law enforcement began cooperating with ICE, suddenly things are much smoother. So we are the ones that need to begin to shift the narrative, that Overton window, and talk to our neighbors about it. It is actually very popular, not according to the media, but it is. So want to talk, did you want to
Can I
add
add
anything to that?
something?
Of course, absolutely.
One thing I wanted to point out about what Darren just said is that every single, I shouldn't say every single, the vast majority of any drug distribution investigation involves immigration. Almost all of these people are foreign cartels that are trafficking into our region. Almost every single human trafficking investigation involves cross-border criminal activity. So when his folks are out there working these cases, they're worried that somehow a federal agent is going to catch word of this, and then Phil Weiser is going to hear about it, and then these guys are going to get sued simply for trying to enforce the law. So it gets right to the point that you're talking about.
Yeah. So we need to talk with our neighbors. They actually agree with us on these issues. They have no idea why we are in the state that we are in. Well, we're in the state of Colorado. Why this state is in the situation is when it comes to crime. Go ahead.
Sorry, one more thing. ICE is trying to keep us out of a lot of things because they recognize the issues that we're having. Our federal partners, where I have deputies and task forces, they also recognize this issue. So we're doing everything that we can to follow Colorado law. The problem is it's contrary to public safety.
That's a simple way to say it. Okay, I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for questions, so I'm just going to ask a couple more things. So, Michael, as I've said, and this is for the record, Douglas County Citizenry is a 501c3 and does not endorse candidates. However, you are currently running for Attorney General for Colorado, and I think it's important to point out because and as I said, we support constitutional candidates. So appreciate your being here. Phil Weiser, okay, our current Attorney General. I have to say,
George loves Phil.
oh, yes. And Phil, if you're watching, it was fun to lead the rally in front of the Supreme Court steps. I've led two of them when he was on the wrong side of the issue, and they lost. So that was really good. But I want to talk about it because the job of Attorney General really is the state's #1 law enforcement official to enforce the law. You're running for this position, and by the way, Bill Weiser has no courtroom experience. This is just something that is important to realize. You point out something interesting that I wanted to highlight because this deals with even beyond your candidacy. Since he started his term, basically the budget that he works with has almost doubled. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it certainly, by the way, is not making us safer. That's not where the money is going.
Well, you may have heard that Phil Weiser has filed some lawsuits against the Trump administration, including,
50.
including, you know that the president is the commander-in-chief. He gets to control what happens with our armed forces. So Trump decides to move Space Command from Colorado Springs, which I regret being in El Paso County. But he's the president and the commander-in-chief, and he gets to do that. And yet Phil Weiser, in his infinite wisdom, decided to file a lawsuit to prevent that from happening. It makes zero sense. But to the point of the question, the budget when he took over as Attorney General was high $80 million. Now it's close to $140 million budget. Has anybody's salaries increased by that similar kind of an increase over the last 8 years? The answer is no, right? And so do we feel good that that budget has grown and been put to good use when we know that there's all these frivolous lawsuits out there? I don't feel good about that. And frankly, if we get Jenna Griswold in that seat, it's going to be even worse. It'll be Phil Weiser on steroids, right?
And I want to point out a couple of other things that he sued over, 50 lawsuits against the current administration and a lot of other things, but including funding. He has fought against administration in order to continue transition surgeries on children, getting Planned Parenthood Medicaid dollars, Green New Deal programs, student loan redistribution, and providing housing and benefits to legal immigrants. Those are some of the 50 issues he's chosen to sue against the administration in order to continue here in Colorado. It has not made us safer. One of the other things that I appreciate is the reason why this is not a partisan issue is because it's about the law and not politicizing it. Phil Weiser has also very much weaponized the Civil Rights Commission, particularly in a case against Jack Phillips, Lori Smith, many other people. Can you talk a little bit about that and bringing balance back to the office?
Yeah, ultimately, I think that the Attorney General's office really is supposed to serve the people of the state of Colorado, not politically motivated career advancement or that sort of thing. And that's really what we've seen out of Phil Weiser with all of the things that he's done to really pander to the far left. And that's, the lawsuits that you mentioned, going after Jack Phillips, the Kate case, and others as well. It really is, he's not thinking about, and the Attorney General's office is not being used to protect all of us, protect our way of life, protect what makes Colorado special. It's really to punish all of us for, wanting to do the things that we think Colorado should be doing, which is standing up for public safety, standing up for our rights constitutionally as opposed to these special interest issues.
And so what would you recommend to turn that office around?
Vote for me.
I was going around without waiting questions. Well, let me put it this way. From your professional perspective, as someone who's done so much, what could be done on day one in that office to get Colorado back to a safer place?
Yeah, I thought you were just throwing me a softball.
Well, you know what? Hey, you would have been foolish if you hadn't just grabbed that. Yeah. So there we go.
So I think first and foremost, I think he's got to stop going after law enforcement. He's got to, whoever's in that office has got to dismiss these frivolous lawsuits and really get that budget back under control and start working for the people of Colorado. There are real issues at play in this state. We've talked about all the crime issues. Has anybody here been the victim of a crime? Has anybody felt the ramifications of crime? And the answer to that is yes. So when we have motor vehicle theft being the worst in the country, is it any wonder that our auto insurance rates are some of the highest in the country too? Or our property insurance is some of the highest in the country? Or when we've got out of control retail theft, those retailers don't bear the brunt of that cost. They pass that on to consumers. So we're all paying for the really detrimental public safety situation that we've got going in Colorado. And Phil Weiser's been at the front end of that. He testified in favor of reducing punishment for drugs that I mentioned earlier. He said you can steal up to 3 or 4 cars before you spend a night in jail. So when you've got an attorney general doing those things, you got to stop that immediately on day one. You got to stop suing law enforcement and start standing up for the people of the state of Colorado.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Michael. Darren, as we're going to start winding up this portion of it and open up for questions, I want to talk about what each and every one of us can do here. One of the things that I keep thinking about is what you were talking about, the increase in violence that your officers are facing, this culture that is getting quicker and quicker and quicker to turn to violence. It's being normalized. It's being celebrated in certain media outlets and circles. What can we do to support the great officers and counterbalance that with our support?
Just support law enforcement. I truly think the last legislative session, 2025, I think the average citizen who doesn't pay attention to politics, I think they're starting to pay attention. When they go to their local gun store and they get told all the hoops that they have to jump through just to buy a firearm, when all of our crime stats throughout the state are going up, I think the average citizen has had enough. And it's critical that people vote, to do their research, to support good candidates, and just not complain about the way things are online. That does nothing to move the needle. You need to pay attention, you need to vote, you need to support your candidates. But just when you pass a law enforcement officer, say thank you. I'm not bloviating when I say our cops put their lives on the line every day. Our cops are willing to lay down their lives for people that they have never met, and they will do it in a second. And so just saying thank you means the world to them. It really does. And when you see thank you, And when you see the nonsense in the media, push back.
Yes.
When you see the nonsense on 9 News, push back. I won't even do an interview with 9 News anymore. They are so partisan in how they report. But just support your law enforcement.
And by the way, the Douglas County Sheriff's Department has a great Facebook page that has all these amazing things. They're at schools, they're dealing with all these different things. They do so much work. Share that. Particularly if you have friends who maybe don't get that kind of information, share that far and wide because they do so much good. And thank you, Darren. Thank you for your service and to everyone. Well, now I want to get to you gentlemen. George, you've been quiet for longer than I remember. So George, from your perspective, how can people here help make a difference, support the work you're doing? And obviously we've talked about being informed, talking to neighbors. Take it away.
I don't know what more you can do other than continue to tell the story that you hear and that you're living, and not just to your neighbors here in Douglas County, but elsewhere. The good thing is some of you guys are going to be jurors at some point. How many people here have ever served on a jury in Douglas County? Okay, that's great. That's great to see that.
It won't take me.
Continuing to find ways to serve, I think, matters. It's easy to get off of a jury. It is very easy to get off of a jury. If you get the chance, it'll be an inconvenience. It'll never come at the appropriate time. Do that thing, because that's what we need is a jury of our peers to sit in judgment of the work that Darren's folks do and the stuff that we put on the field out there. We need more of that, and it's becoming harder and harder to find our peers who are willing to serve in a longer jury. Can I say just a couple of things? One, Colorado is the only state in America that has term limits for district attorneys. Nobody has followed us down that crazy road, but it exists, and it's existed since 1996. And what we have seen since 1996 is a growing divide, not just between the R's and the D's in the DA's office, but a politicization of prosecution to the point where people become district attorneys. They've never done the job, and they've never done the job at the top level. And while nobody could conceive of voting someone for sheriff that hasn't had the career that Darren's had, which is to start at the bottom as an explorer and work his way up through every part of no one would think, oh yeah, I want my neighbor to be the sheriff. Nobody would ever think that unless your neighbor's Darren. But for prosecutors, what we have seen across the metro area in particular, but the state is prosecutors who do not go into the courtroom. And on the cases that are most important to their community, they do not go in there and fight. This dude does, okay? There are the DAs, and these are all colleagues of ours, and they're nice enough people. Jeffco, Denver, Arapahoe, even Adams, and that guy can try a case. As DAs, they don't get down into the trenches and fight. This guy does. When Q happens, this guy goes in and says, I'm strapping it on for the community, and we're going to go get justice. That's the big difference between him and a Jenna Griswold and a Phil Weiser, and that is he's had a client. It's called us, and he's fought like hell personally and got it under his fingernails. That's the kind of person we want in these kinds of offices, not some ideologue.
George said so many nice things, I forgot what the question was.
I think he just wants you to say it back to him.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
all the same things. Actually,
So the question is, what can people here do?
yeah, real quick, I just want to share a story. When I first thought about running for DA 6 years ago, one of the first people I called was George. We didn't know each other at the time. I showed up actually in his Douglas County office. I had on one of my best suits, and he gave me all kinds of great advice, and here we are sitting together talking about this stuff. One thing I want to point out about what Darren said, and it really, I think about Isaiah 6:8. Who shall I send? These guys say, send me, I'll go. Every single day. There we go. So I don't think we can say enough thanks to people in law enforcement or our military for really putting their life on the line every single day. when you think about motor vehicle theft, you don't necessarily think about that being a violent crime. But I know that Darren will back me up on this. Every single one of those, they approach as if that guy wants to kill them. And oftentimes they do come out with guns blazing, trying to kill the police officers pulling them over. So I would just extend as much gratitude as you possibly can to any law enforcement you see. Thank them for being willing to sacrifice their entire life just to serve all of you.
And pray for them.
Yeah, pray for them
Yes.
too.
Absolutely. Well, let's give them all our appreciation right now. Thank you guys so much. We're gonna have a little- Yeah. So while we're giving a microphone for Q&A, raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. I do want to say, while DCC does not endorse any candidates, Sheriff Weekly is also running for re-election. So just, whatever you want to do with that, as well as Michael Collins for Attorney General. Okay, so who, I think you're, okay.
Well, real quick, you took what I was gonna say, so how can we support you in your reelection? Where do we go, send money, and same for you, Michael, where
And
do we
he's
go?
asking as an individual.
Well, believe it or not, I do have 2 opponents so far. I don't know if I'm going to have any more, but they can go to weeklyforsheriff.com. We do have some swag over here, flyers, bumper stickers, things like that. But if you go to weeklyforsheriff.com, if I could get your support, I am going through the assembly process, so please go to your caucus, become a delegate, go to Campbell County Assembly. But also, like any other political candidate, I need money. And so if you'd be so generous, any amount helps, and I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. So I've got a website too, Michael Allen for Colorado. One thing I want to point out, Darren just hit on it too, is the fundraising part. We can't get the message out without the fundraising part of it. That's why it's important that Darren mentioned it. Jenna Griswold has already raised $1.4 million. I've got a lot of ground to catch up. So there's going to be somebody outside the door. They're going to turn you over and shake you and get all the money out of your pocket.
I am not currently running for office, but you can Venmo me directly. I will get that.
We don't do that here at Assembly Georgia.
And Darren, what's your website?
Weeklyforsheriff.com.
Okay, great. All right, other questions?
Yeah, it's gonna take me a second. Look around, you guys. We're over 100 people in here tonight. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate you coming and feeding this place.
Great.
Hi, Renee Anderson. It occurred to me when you were talking about the reduction in actually even potentially letting people like the Aurora theater shooter out of jail, prison, wherever it is. Does Sullivan know that? And is there anybody reaching out to Representative Sullivan saying, dude, really? Like, would you be okay with that? Can you talk to your peeps and convince them?
I think the only thing that Sullivan wants is to take everybody's guns. We've tried to have conversations with him, and he is just solely focused on that, unfortunately.
And something you can always tell anyone on that issue, by the way, I think it's 95% of mass shootings happen in gun-free zones, and that shooter went to a theater where guns were not allowed past other theaters. So, good question, though.
So, Michael, what is your attack going to be on Jenna Griswold regarding policy, and how are you going to go after her?
Yeah, well, you may have heard about this, but she tried to keep Trump off the primary ballot. And did you hear about the Supreme Court? They were 9-0 against her. She has no idea how to practice law. She's an attorney, but has never actually set foot in the courtroom. So it's really a similar theme to what I used in my first run for DA, and that is that experience matters. If you are electing somebody to be the top law enforcement officer in the entire state of Colorado and the top attorney, they should have been able to walk into a courtroom at one time and actually try a case and know how that works. I've got experience, she has 0 experience. So it's going to be a lot of that stuff. Yeah. She's got experience leaking passwords.
This question is for District Attorney Allen. I'd like to know, basically, Attorney General for the State of Colorado, any legal, authority or investigative ability with the Office of the Secretary of State of Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we have some of that ability too as DAs. We've done some of those investigations, but absolutely, yeah, they can investigate things like
That's
that.
because I think everyone's probably aware there's quite a bit of concern about some things that happened in the Secretary of State's office. There seems to be no one outside that's willing to go and look into a lot of issues.
Yeah, well, I mean, to your point, she refuses to even turn over any of the voter rolls, right, to the federal government to make sure that only American citizens are on those voter rolls and getting ballots. So absolutely, I think that we need to open the windows and take a look.
Can you also tell us when you're done, if you have something to add, what is the maximum contribution level at your offices? I know it is.
There's no limit on Venmo.
So George wants all the money. I only want $1,450. That's the max amount.
And it's $28.50 for Sharon.
Oh, geez.
Not $28.50.
All right,
I'm
Let's
not
make
sure.
that clear. Okay, next question. He's heading right over there. So.
A day.
Let's try to break that.
It's interesting to me that Democrats care more about going after law-abiding citizens and their guns versus the criminals. Makes me think maybe there's an ulterior motive. The other thing is all these kids, when they take a pill, it's like playing Russian roulette. I wish all their parents would say, you don't know what's in that pill, it could kill you. Just don't do it. But it still happens. My real question is, I was talking to my House Representative, Bob Marshall, about the registering of gun barrels. It's like, what is that all about? And he says, well, it started out with the ghost gun ban because ghost guns have been found at crime scenes more in the last few years, but ghost guns are illegal. And he says that's why they want to go register barrels. But the criminals are already breaking the law. So is it true that law enforcement supported the ghost gun ban? And do they support registering barrels when I think it's going to hurt law-abiding citizens more than any criminal?
This does absolutely nothing to keep people safe. Criminals don't obey gun laws. And the fact of the matter is, from a crime scene investigation, we can already determine, in most cases, what bullet came out of what barrel. This does nothing. It's just another hoop to jump through. And my firm belief is our far-left legislature is doing everything they can, not only to keep guns out of the hands of law-abiding citizens, but to shut down every gun store in the state.
Absolutely.
Andrew D. Durkin Parker. I've known George a long time. I think Cadet Brauchler looked just like Colonel Brauchler, except he was blonde. So the trust in organizations is critical for their ability to operate, and then the people's ability to work with them and trust them. So there's a line between Congress and lawyers and the military and law enforcement where they have to self-police. So they've got the responsibility to do that. Some of them, like the Army, the most trusted of all of the military services, it does a great job with that because they're great JAGs. George has been introduced to many of them. So Congress just doesn't. What do you do in your organizations, your trusted organizations, to train your folks, to monitor your folks, and unfortunately, if needed, enforce good behavior with your people so that they can remain trusted organizations?
Well, I'll jump in and just talk about that. Darren's got a lot of things that he can talk about. I know that for a fact. But one, we train all of our lawyers on just how to do the demanding job of what it means to be a lawyer in Colorado today. The discovery requirements, meaning all the evidence that we have to turn over to defense, has gotten really, really difficult because now every police officer is wearing body cam and somebody's got to watch that body cam. The hours of body cam that we collect every single case, let alone 30,000 cases that we file in the 4th Judicial District, right? It's just almost humanly impossible to watch all that stuff. So one, how do you manage that? How do you make sure that you're getting all the stuff out to defense, making sure you're satisfying all the ethical requirements? But we also do a lot of policing of ourselves too. So the Judicial District just to my southwest, the 11th Judicial District, that used to be run by Linda Stanley, the DA down there. I was in my office one day. I see a news clip that came up and she is running her mouth about things that she shouldn't be talking about on a pending case, and it led actually to a murder case getting dismissed by the judge. And so I worked then to work with CDAC to actually report her to Colorado Attorney Regulation, and now she's disbarred for some of those activities. So you really do have to make sure that the bad apples are identified and taken out, but then stand up and champion all the good work that's being done by all the other folks.
I agree with what Michael said, but it starts at the top, and I'm telling you, the culture begins with the tip of that pyramid and works its way down. And if you instill a culture of a couple things, one, you cannot let them believe that we're in a zero defect environment. Because if that happens, people won't come forward when they make a mistake, and that's what we want. Mistakes happen. We're people. You can't get to perfection. So you want to create an environment where people are willing to come forward and say, I screwed this up, and know that it's not the end of a career, unless it's like, hey, I've got a body in the trunk of my car. That's different. That's the end of your career. But anything else, you want them to come forward. The other thing that you have to do is to instill a sense and a reminder, and this is important for the criminal justice system in America. We are not an outcome-driven system. We don't find a point on a map and say, we determine that that's justice, and anything and everything we want to do to get there is okay to get there. No, that's someone else. We are a process-driven justice system. And what that means is we invest so much trust and faith in the checks and balances and the rules and the law that if we follow these things and do it right, the person that we convict is the right person, and we're taking away liberty from the person who forfeited it through that conduct. If you start to substitute the notion that victory is more important than the process to get there, then you start to see more people fudging on the ethics piece. And so you have to instill these two things in your organizations.
Just real quick, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, as I mentioned, is a Triple Crown accredited agency. We're certified through the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement, the American Correctional Association, as well as the National Commission on Correctional Healthcare. And so there's 3,000 sheriff's offices in the United States. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office is one of 30 that is Triple Crown accredited, and one of, I believe, 8 to achieve that accreditation status under multiple sheriffs. So not only that, I hold my people accountable. In my administration, if you lie, you fly. If I got a cop that has been determined by policy and procedure that they were untruthful, they're fired. I don't care who they are, I don't care what rank they are, they're gone. And so I got one of my cops here tonight, and he will tell you, I hold people accountable. There's a difference between a cop, there's a difference between a cop that has made a mistake and he owns that mistake, and there's a cop that engages in misconduct. I will not tolerate misconduct.
We can hear you.
Thank you for what you're doing, guys are doing. It's very important that we stand up for the people back here. This question is mostly for George, but for the rest of you guys. You were talking about the child rape issue. That's one that seems to me 99% of the state should care about. It seems to me that they don't know about it. How do we get that message across to them? I mean, this is somewhat rhetorical, but I want to hear from you on how do we let them know about it? Because that's important.
First thing, and you guys have already picked up on this, is you can no longer trust, for a lot of reasons, the legacy media as a venue to get out information. Even if it were accurate, they just don't have the reach anymore. In fact, we're familiar with what takes place on some of these news outlets. But I'm telling you, that next generation and the generation below it, they have no damn idea who Kyle Clark is. They don't know who that guy is. So it's progress in a way. There's,
Winning!
We need to take hold of what social media platforms we can to get out this information. Every place I've gone since that vote, and I've told that story, I've never had a single person when I say they voted against mandatory prison for child rapists, I've never had someone go, everyone's like, how is that not already the law? Like, how can that not be the law right this minute? That tells me, and your question's a good one, is why hasn't this information permeated the community? We're not doing a good enough job of targeting these messages and getting them out there. I think once people hear these things, and that's why the big ballot measures matter. The problem is they're freaking expensive. To get something on the ballot at the statutory level, which isn't the extra signatures from each of the things, it's like $1 million, $2 million. Well, it says $2 million. Where's that money coming from, right? Like, I'm happy with what we've done, but we have got to do a better job of using the resources and tools we have and the platforms we have right now to get these messages out. And not just once, but you keep beating that drum. Keep making that algorithm respond to all the retweets and the likes and the reposting and all that other stuff.
And one of the things that we do believe here is every single one of us has a sphere of influence that nobody else has. And people believe things more when they hear it from their neighbor, the person they work with. And we've got to do a better job of not wrapping it in. You don't start this with, oh, those Democrats and this person. You're like, did you know? I just heard this. And when we begin to do that, yes, we've got to find other media ways, but every single one of us can be a part of that solution. And find that neighbor you think would never agree with you on anything. Ours lives to the left of us. And it's amazing when we have that conversation, we don't label it as anything. I just heard this and it's unbelievable. What do you think? And it eventually leads somewhere. So that's one thing that every single one of us can do. And then, by the way, this is a little plug. If you haven't joined our Facebook private group, join there because that's a place to share some of this information. There's a public page and there's a private page.
Kim Harburg, I guess it would be helpful to me, I wonder, in order to defeat the crazy left or whatever you want to call it, it would be helpful to know what motivates them. And I was wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit to that, in that what motivates the other side to be soft on crime and anti-safety?
Well, my opinion is a lot of these people have not been impacted personally by being victims of crime, whether it be a property crime or a person crime. A lot of these folks, they honestly believe these people just need more counseling. They need help. They started life on the wrong foot. We just need to do a better job. And I will tell you, after being in this business so long, there are people like that. Working in a jail, you learn the difference between somebody that made a mistake in life and they're going to fix it, and somebody that should be in a cage for the rest of their lives. But we have people that have gotten elected and put in our legislature that thinks everyone just needs counseling. And they will tell you, and there's been county jails across the state that have been closed due to the requirements the state has put on people who have been incarcerated. They don't want anybody in jail. They're achieving their goal.
I would just add, I really think some of it is really insidious, actually. I just got briefed on this group that's been protesting in Colorado Springs about all kinds of different things. Some of the leaders of that group are actually trained in China. So these are Marxist Maoists. And that's really, we've got some of that in the state legislature too. I think it's something like 11 or 13. They're Democrat socialists. They really want to destroy our way of living and then make big government be the solution for all the problems that they then created. So I think it comes down to that. That's the motivation ultimately.
And the only other thing I'd say is that those are the people passing the laws. So many of our neighbors, their compassion is weaponized. And the left is very good at picking one story that's the most extreme element of something and saying that is the entire picture. And we have to tell the other stories. We have to tell the other stories, the 5-year-old, we have to, because they are actually compassionate people, and that's one of the biggest breakdowns. I just have to say this. The minute that we think people that disagree with us are evil, communication is over. The vast majority of our neighbors are decent people who think they're being compassionate. They only hear one story instead of the whole picture. So we need to start from that place and talk about the compassion from the other side. Right here, Don Richards.
Don Richards, Douglas County. Does anybody in the room remember Reginald Denny? we see a lot of street level mob action. My vehicle is surrounded by a mob intending to impede my progress. I'm calling 911. If it turns into a Reginald Denny situation, what should I do? Well, if that shouldn't be answered in a public forum, just give me the signal.
Well, I think if you have a reasonable belief that your life is in jeopardy, then you can respond with whatever you need to do to defend yourself. That's ultimately what the law says.
Also, for anyone that knows you, they know you're talking about your bike. You're surrounded on your bike, dude. I don't know what's going on. Well, may not work. Right. Pedal faster. I agree with Michael. Look, the law isn't set up to mandate that you be a victim. And when people ask questions, and I've taught gun stuff at churches and other things, I'm sure Darren gets these questions all the time. I'm like, if it's something that you can sit down and process, should I do this or should I not do this? You're probably not in that moment. When you're in that moment, you will take the action to save your life. That's what will happen.
And I will tell you, we will be there in a matter of minutes. Number one thing. Number two, I recently left the Capitol, and there was an impromptu march outside of the Capitol. These were just people blocking the street. And I'm trying to get back to work, and I'm thinking to myself, where in the heck is the Denver Police Department? And I'm telling you, that wouldn't fly in Douglas County.
We have a few more questions.
I'm really concerned about fire readiness and what we're doing about it, and geoengineering. I don't understand what's going on with our weather and geoengineering. I know it's off topic, but are we doing anything about fire readiness? And
Well, I will tell you, Douglas County is better prepared than most counties throughout the state. We don't have the helicopter on contract right now. We have the ability to get them back under contract and waiting out near Sterling Ranch. We will have them back. I think they start again May 1st and they go through October 31st. Most counties don't have that. And then when we had the Laveers fire last summer, it was July. It was 90 plus degrees out, and we called the state's helicopters. They were all down. Who'd figure we'd have a fire in Colorado in July? Ridiculous. So I will tell you that we are better prepared than most. We have the best emergency management director in the state, in Michael Alexander. We are prepared. We work closely with our fire partners, and we are ready. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you. Final question.
Steve Fleming, Douglas County, my wife Donna Fleming. We're here by way of Chesapeake, Virginia. Me, as of March of this year, Donna, she's been out here for, I think it's 2 more years than me. We got grandchildren, and our son-in-law, Kyle Villamore, who's also deputy Douglas County. But to ground this whole conversation, Sheriff Weekly, I appreciate you talking about the valor, honor, service of these guys. Our son, Sean Fleming, Chesapeake, Virginia, still serving. This is his chief. In 2009, 32 rounds from AK style is AK-47. 32 rounds from a gangbanger in Norfolk, Virginia. He took 6 rounds through his windshield. He walked away, the other guy didn't. He serves with honor still on the streets to see what these guys deal with. Our son-in-law also got in a shootout and took down the illegal gangbanger. This is real. It's happening. And there's parents out here that are paying the price to raise the children right. Please vote for this man. It's real. It's And our son's gonna be coming out next year, and he's gonna be asking you for a job.
Hey, whenever he's ready, we got a spot for him.
I just decorated just as his brother-in-law, okay?
There you go.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the parents of people who serve, whether it's in the military or first responders. And I want to echo a comment. It's a reminder. Let's pray for these people. Let's pray for those who stand in the gap. Let's pray for our first responders, our military, those who bring justice. And let's thank these gentlemen.
We got Deborah a t-shirt for Christmas that said one last thing.
I say that quite frequently.
One very, very
One more
last
thing.
question.
Okay, Sharice Plasha, just to piggyback off of that, what is going on with the gangs, especially through Douglas County, El Paso? I heard they're infiltrating everywhere.
I have deputies in place at the federal task forces for the reason, including the FBI's Violent Offender Task Force. And before I put somebody in that task force, I told the commander, I'm not giving you another body to go put in Denver and Aurora. I expect them to be doing work here in Douglas County, or I'm going to pull them back. I will tell you that we have had TDA in Douglas County committing crimes. We have other gang members committing crimes. Why? Because it's low-hanging fruit. No matter how many times we tell people to lock their doors, close their garages, close their garage with their $600,000 car that they leave the keys in the garage, it happens. We do have gang members here. We are doing everything that we can to combat that, to including gathering intelligence information, and we work well with our police departments. You'd be surprised how many sheriff's offices and police departments, they don't even talk to each other. We have a great relationship with Parker, Castle Rock, and Lone Tree, and our detectives work together daily to combat it. Again, and the one thing, and I will give kudos to our 23rd Judicial District, we hold criminals accountable, and he actually prosecutes them. And so we are in the best position for success with this.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much. Thank you all for coming. A couple of housekeeping. As you see, Jonathan, my husband, basic and airborne veteran. Thank you for your service. He's also a great director. This camera doesn't show it, but we do post every single one of our panel discussions. You can get it on our Facebook pages. It's also on our YouTube, and please do share it. Our very first event, I think it was with Sheriff Weekly and all of our police chiefs throughout Douglas County. There's great value there, and when we're talking about persuading our neighbors, share these. Just say, I dare you, watch this. Did you hear this story? The things that George shared. So please share those. Please join us March 11th. We're going to be here. We're going to have all of our mayors, including Renee Anderson, who is here right now.
Mayor runs with the chair.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So we're going to have a wonderful program then, March 11th. Make sure you are on our email list and also on our Facebook page. And I just want to say God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.